like 2 dozen volts, and they make fun of.
All right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, Jay. I see you just popped in. I am expecting a couple more people, but we have a huge group of stereo photos to look at tonight, so I want to get started. Definitely worth staying for the whole thing. For once, I have no notes, no announcements, no questions for this bunch. Does anyone have anything they would like to share or say before we jump into the slideshow? All right, it sounds like we're ready to go. The YouTube live streams have just started. Let me share mine. If you're following along on Zoom. It'll just take me a second to get started here, and okay, if you are following along with me, you should see our title slide on the screen. Live streams. And if no one is having any trouble viewing our stream, let's get started with our first image. Peter, you know, I am so appreciative of you sharing your photos from faraway Canada. I've tried to put your group at the beginning of the slideshow so that it doesn't have to be quite as late a night for you. So that said,
I
the
wouldn't
first one is by
abandon you
you.
after my stuff goes on unless I fall asleep.
Well, I just want to encourage you to keep contributing because it's great stuff. What we're looking at here
Thank you.
is it's a conversion, as all of Peter's entries are tonight. This is 3rd Avenue, Seattle, 1934.
And I'll even point out the most obvious error is the Ace Hotel. The Ace is further back than the word hotel. Should have had that same depth, but I didn't, so what the heck.
Yeah, and to my eye, the car that's in the center, one headlight is farther forward than the other, and
You're right.
the bumper
Thank you,
is
Steve.
way
Yeah.
forward.
Oh my God, the bumper's too far. Oh, that's it. I'm throwing this one out.
Or maybe
No,
they
no, keep it.
put the
It's
bumper that far forward to protect the car. Who knows? But
Yeah,
yes, I see
that
the
could be used
headlight
as
and
a
the
bumper
bumper.
car.
I wish they had cars that did have bumpers today. Those plastic things, you touch something, boom, $1,000 to fix it. The blurry car, I tried to de-blur it, the one moving there, and didn't have any success with it. I just left it the way it was in the original.
I think it looks great.
What technique did you try and use to de-blur it? I'm not even sure how you would go about that.
I just topazed it and
Okay.
and then cranked up the de-blur part. It just made a mess of it. So I didn't think it could save that. It's pretty blurry to make clear, I would think.
Well, it's a realistic blur. It's something that we're used to seeing.
Oh yeah. No, I don't mind the effect as being as it is in the real picture. So luckily it wasn't a problem.
I like that this car in front of it is self-driving.
Yeah, it's an early Tesla, I think. Yeah.
Sounds like we have a new member,
Yeah.
potentially
Very
feline
catty
member.
remark there.
Yeah, she wants food. I guess I'll take care of that.
Now,
I was
Pete,
looking around to see if it was my cat.
mine are locked out of the room. They get too nosy. Now, Peter, and I was actually going to ask the group. I went on the Leapix converter website just yesterday, and it looks like they've made some changes. Am I correct? Can anyone confirm that they don't allow you to download side-by-side stereos anymore? I was only able to get it to export a kind of a wigglegram, an animation. Has anyone experienced that?
Yeah, they changed their policy. You have to buy credits and pay for it if you want it without the watermark. I was getting it exported, but a lot more trouble removing the watermark than it was worth. I was going to ask if anyone has an alternative or if anyone has done the subscription thing with Leapix.
I broke down and bought a whole stack of credits. And
Yeah, I think it's worth. I mean, they did give us, have some candy, little boy, for free for so long, and so.
And I did some comparisons, the same image, Pepsi Challenge, done a few years ago with the new image done with the grayscale, and the grayscale has improved from the old days of the same image. So they are making it better too.
And if you use the layer link to transfer to a layer pad and do the conversion, you can then download that converted image. So you wouldn't have to pay for a conversion.
Using the layer link.
Yeah.
Can you put that in the chat there?
Yeah.
That is...
Then I'll throw away all my credits.
Well, it doesn't give you the control you have of the desktop app, but because it's just a straight conversion.
All I ever need is a grayscale map, and that costs 30 points, 30 credits.
Yeah.
To get no watermark. But ironically, in a lot of scenes, the watermark's not a big deal because a grayscale with watermarks all over it can be fixed fairly routinely because you're just a bunch of grays that you're copying, not details. So if you're stuck, you could probably clone out the watermarks on a depth map.
These are like true hacker tips here.
Well, I think they had a time there before they added the watermarks. They weren't allowing exporting, but they did allow you to see the side-by-side horizontal shift. So I was doing just screen grabs, just kind of waiting for it to get to one side, take a screen grab, go to the other. And that seemed to work for a while.
If I remember correctly, isn't there like a three? So we're talking about taking a normal, like non 3D image and trying to create a depth map out of it. Is that just so we're on the same page?
Yep. Put in a flat image, and
yeah,
the credits aren't too expensive.
I feel like there's
20 cents a picture or something, perhaps, depending how many you buy.
I think the credits are 1 cent each. So
1
your
cent
30
each?
credits, 1 penny, I think. So like your 30 credits is 30 cents.
There are different prices for different things you want off the credit. For me, it's all grayscale maps, and I've given up with Midas. I used to use Midas all the time, and I finally was sold on Leapix just recently, so I said to heck with it.
So in the
Peter,
chat,
the technology is advancing by leaps and bounds every day. One of the best ones out now, better than Midas, is something called Depth Anything. And for a long time, it was necessary to download the software and build it yourself and hook it into your GPU, and it was all kind of complicated. I ran into Dave Kumo a week or so ago at some meeting, and he pointed out that this is now available for free at a URL. So you simply upload your photo, click some buttons, download your depth map. So I'll put a link to that in the chat. And once you have that depth map, then just throw it into SPM, I guess.
Yeah, please put that that link in the chat. I think a lot of us are interested to explore that.
There's another one called Zoe Depth, ZOE Depth. That's a pretty good one too.
So, just one thing to keep in mind, anything that they can give you, they can take away. So if you have a URL that's giving you free conversions, next week it might not. And so if they have an app that you can download and run on your own device, it might be worth the trouble to do it, because once it's running on your own device, you have it.
Good point. Thank you, Herb. Well, there is some great links in the chat regarding this, including Jay's link, his hack to convert without credits. There's also a link to the Leapix converter website. I think we post this every month, but in case there's anyone here who doesn't know where these credits come from that we're talking about, that's for the Leapix website. And then Jay has just posted links for Depth Anything and Marigold. So keep them coming, everyone. I think we had talked about one or two other converters. If you happen to know of one or use one, stick it in the chat, because I think we'd all like to play with it. Thank you, Peter, for submitting this great conversion and stimulating this fantastic conversation. I am going to move on.
I had one question.
Yes, please. Take it away.
Was the source colorized or was it added?
No, it was colorized already. I didn't colorize it. I'm not a good colorizer, I'm afraid. So I look for them if I see them somewhere.
It's very good.
It's a good colorized job, that's for sure.
Photoshop has a fairly nice built-in colorizer as well in their latest.
Oh.
Is that one of their neural filters or what?
Exactly. Yeah. You just click on the neural and then you can fool with the colorization. I just did one for my sister who had an old black and white image of her daughter and my niece, and it looked great right out of the box. I didn't have to do any tweaking at all.
I think that must use AI or something. It's it's very smart
definitely
about it.
Thanks.
So basically, I don't know if anyone has a ready answer for this, but just a question that came up. Because PSA is basically saying that you can't use AI for any image that you enter in a PSA sanctioned exhibition. A question would be, is there an easy way to open up Photoshop and say, turn off all AI capabilities so that I can do other editing of my photo and not worry about inadvertently violating the conditions of entry for a PSA exhibition?
That's a real tough one, because Photoshop uses AI all the time. You're not even aware of it, but a lot of the actions that you're using in Photoshop are using AI. I think what the PSA is talking about is obvious manipulation and doing conversions and altering the basic image.
Yeah, I guess maybe a different way to word the question is, how would somebody who's not savvy on AI know whether they're violating the conditions of entry or not when they use Photoshop to manipulate a photo?
Well, the PSA guidelines, say you can enhance a photo, you can, sharpen it, you can add saturation to it. But I think they're talking about severe manipulation and, conversions. And when you just put a prompt in and say, okay, give me a stereo photo of, Matt swinging off the Golden Gate Bridge, and, they'll produce.
I want to see that one.
Yeah, so for example, if you basically try and remove an artifact from an image, are you using AI in Photoshop to do that, and is that permitted? So for example, if you basically...
We've got some feedback. It looks like it's been taken care of. Sorry to interrupt.
It's Jack, I think.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Jack, welcome. If you wouldn't mind mute your TV.
I'm sorry?
Could you mute your TV or your,
It looks like it's
your speakers? We're getting some feedback from you.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Jack, welcome. Your TV? Oh, the TV?
Yeah, if you
Okay.
wouldn't mind muting that. All right, Jack, I'm going to have to mute you in a minute.
Is it muted now?
Let's see. We're still getting some feedback from somebody.
I'm pretty sure I've only tried it again. Oh, no. Okay, just a minute. Let me try one other thing.
All right.
We're still getting some feedback from somebody.
It's Jack. Jack, please turn your TV volume all the way down.
I think he's working
Better
on it.
now?
That's better. Yes. Thank you, Jack. And welcome.
Yeah, okay.
We've
But
been
you can hear
talking
me
about,
talking, okay.
I can hear you just fine, yeah. And we've been
Okay.
talking about a single image this whole time, so you haven't missed much. Herb, that is a great question. I agree, definitely with Bob. And I know that some things like these neural filters can be deliberately switched off, but other things like the generative fill are just built in. And I'd be very curious if those can be disabled, or maybe there's a way to install Photoshop without those features. Good question. If anyone has any information.
Just use Photoshop 6.
There you go. That's the last standalone version.
Yeah.
Totally fine. Or Elements or Affinity. We've got, I know, one Affinity user here. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Bob. And Jay, thank you for being patient. We've got one by you here. This is a native shot, not a conversion. Aerial Mountains 1 is the title. Jay, tell us all about this.
Just booked a window seat. Was lucky I finally had a daylight trip back from New York. And this is INYO National Forest. That's what the GPS says. So I think it was like Utah. And I just, took a bunch and chose a good pair. Used my Motorola cell phone.
Did you shoot this in like a burst mode or?
No, just every second, 2 seconds.
Okay. And these were stills. These weren't video. These aren't
Correct.
frames from a video.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's a great technique. I always try to book a window seat for this very reason.
Yeah, it actually came out better than Google Earth.
Well, you get these beautiful clouds. I'm not sure if Google Earth is quite up to rendering those sort of fluid effects.
Yeah, I have not tried Microsoft Flight Simulator, which might be the next source of 3D pictures.
Ah. Yeah, that would be interesting to compare to Google Earth. All right. Well, thanks, Jay. Jay, are you're looks like, am I correct looking at your background that you're back in the Bay Area?
Yeah, I'm back in California.
Welcome.
Yes.
Welcome back. It's great to have you back again. Thank you, Jay. Next, we're going to see one by Oleg. This is a native stereo photo, and the title is Lakeside Park and Mount Osorno. I think I got that right.
That's right. Yeah, this was taken in Chile about 10 years ago. It turns out my cousin in Chile, her husband died, and this mountain is sort of like Mount Fuji. It has, it's because of its symmetry, people consider it very beautiful. So she went up to the mountain and scattered her husband's ashes on the mountain. And I thought, well, I took a lot of pictures 10 years and 5 years ago. So this last month I've been, a lot of them weren't post-processed. So I've been selecting all the pictures showing Mount Sorno. So later this year, I will be going to Chile, flying to Chile, and I'm going to give her a loom pad so she can see all these pictures I took of the mountain.
Oh, that's really nice. Has she seen your work in stereo before?
No, she hasn't.
Well, I'm sure that'll make a big impact. How many of Mount Osorno, how big an album do you have of photos that you've made of it?
About maybe 100 photos.
Okay. Is this the first one we're seeing?
Yes. You'll be seeing it for the rest of the year.
Okay. Well, of course, you have a big Mount Tam collection also. So this isn't your first mountain project.
No, I like mountains. My favorite movie is called Mountain.
Mountain.
Yeah.
Did you share that with us before? That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, some of the specials I submitted were from that movie.
Yeah, I think it was from like a found stereo. You took some frames from that, I think, or maybe it was a conversion.
No, it was frames.
I have a question, Ole.
Yes.
The couple in the background seem to be from another time dimension because they have the back railing kind of going transparently through their bodies. I'm wondering, unless they have that printed on their coats. Did you transport them from another reality into this shot?
No, I didn't. Well,
It's
their shirts hanging out.
Is anyone else seeing that?
Yes, it's their shirts. The shirts are sticking out a little bit below their sweaters.
Okay, I'm going to have to, I can't see it.
The top of the railing, the white railing, seems to bisect them right through the middle of their bodies.
Right, yeah. The railing is at waist level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a fix it.
Oh yeah, no, it's an easy fix. It just was interesting to me.
I like the personal dynamic going on with the foreground girl sort of, I mean, she's looking at these other kids, and it's easy to sort of make up a story about what she's thinking.
Well, she's also using her knee to imitate the mountain as well, too.
That I didn't notice. Maybe I should pull her leg out so it'll be the same shape as the mountain.
Yeah. Well, you wouldn't be able to enter it in the PSA, but you should.
All right. Well, thank you, Oleg. It's very lovely. I'm going to move on. This one is actually by me, and I should mention, of course, for those who are following along on one of our YouTube live streams, there is a lag of 10 to 15 seconds or so, depending on factors I don't really understand. But in any case, if you're not seeing what we're describing, be patient and it'll pop right up. This one, as I said, is by me. The title is the location that I shot it, from where I shot it, and the subject. It is View of 345 California Street from Battery and Halleck Alley. This is in San Francisco. And yeah, it's just a nice smartphone cha-cha. What I really found remarkable about it is that many of you know I'm playing with this technique of shooting right into the sun. I'm really enjoying these really high contrast photos that result stereo photos. And you can't really do that with a smartphone. The cameras are so sophisticated. There's so much computational photography happening that after you take the picture, it's like already gone through shadow highlights and everything. So I got this perfectly exposed pair, and I really didn't expect that, but I'll take it. And I did adjust the colors a bit in Photoshop, and I think I might have played with the levels to reduce the, or rather increase the clarity. But that's what I've got. Thank you.
Yeah, it's spectacular. I love this image.
Oh, thank you. It was
the shadows and reflections kind of complement each other.
Yeah, just everything about it is so well done. It's like a perfect cityscape.
Oh.
Now, which are you using an iPhone?
I am using the cheapest iPhone they sell, the SE or whatever it is.
All right.
It has a single lens camera on it. So it's definitely not as sophisticated as some of the cameras on the smartphone cha-chas that I've seen. But even with this budget model, the cameras are just incredible.
It's amazing. Yeah. The newer, I've got the iPhone 15 Pro Max, and that does have a setting where you can select camera raw. So you'll have all the information there.
Oh, incredible.
Did we ever talk about the story about how the iPhones deal with the moon?
Mm-mm.
There was a story, probably following one of the relatively recent updates, that claimed, I don't know if it's true, but it claimed that part of the intelligence built into the image processing for the phone is to recognize the moon, and when it sees something that looks like the moon in the right phase for the person's location and everything, instead of trying to enhance it digitally, it actually takes a high resolution image of the moon and puts it directly in the image.
Replaces it.
So library image just constant in.
Say again?
A library image you mean it just comes into your picture?
Sounds like you're breaking
I can't
up
hear
there.
it.
Yeah, sorry, we missed that. I think you were breaking up.
Sorry.
There we go.
So now that would mean that you're shooting with an iPhone 15, you might have a photo that's not legal for a PSA exhibition now without even realizing it.
Yeah, it might not be your picture of the moon at all.
This is exactly what you were talking about. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Let's move on to one by Bob. Robert Bloomberg. This is a native shot, and it is a selfie on cobblestones. Bob, tell us all about this.
I think the title pretty much says it all. Try to keep my hand in the shadows so you're not seeing the movement as much. I like the way the shadow is kind of beneath the cobblestones. But yeah, basically it's just unmanipulated. I may have gone in and corrected some anomalies, but I don't think so.
Melinda, you showed us a photo with a similar effect a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, this is why I submitted it, because we were talking about people submitting their shadow portraits, and I take them all everywhere I go with friends, and that's our kind of go-to selfie is with shadows.
Yeah, the real challenge is to get the shadow to float above the ground, because if you just keep the camera like fixed to your chest, it'll naturally put the shadow below the cobblestones. So I think you have to, for the second shot, after you lean over the camera, back to where it started, and then even further, in order to get sort of the opposite effect. You can do a
cross view.
Yeah, you can do a pseudo stereo just to see the idea, but then it'll do the opposite of what you want with the rest of the image. So it's an interesting challenge to try to get a scene with proper stereogram with your shadow floating above it. You can do it. It's just tricky.
I once saw years ago a guy who took a single light on a chair, putting shadows on the floor, and took a single picture and then moved the light to create fresh shadows of the chair on the floor, and then had it as a side-by-side pair. So the shadow was in 3D and the chair wasn't. It was very effective.
That's a great idea. I think I might try something like that.
Yeah, that is a very creative idea.
It's not mine, but I just saw it. And Bob's is great. I love these sort of things. It reminds me of that science fiction movie where they came from outer space and zapped everyone and they all turned into shadows on the ground.
I think that's War of the Worlds.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, like 1951 kind of thing.
53.
50, yeah.
Yeah. Back a few decades ago, Jerry Marks in New York and I did some experiments with shadows through filters, and then wearing anaglyph glasses so that the shadows were in 3D. So it was pretty cool.
So you cast them with like lights with color gels or something? Is that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Ah. Yeah. Well, great artists steal. So everyone steal these great ideas for shadow stereo photography.
Does that mean, Bob, you could put a red filter over a light and then a blue over the next light, and it's an automatic anaglyph on the floor or something? Or?
Yeah, I haven't done it in so long. I have to experiment.
Well, it wouldn't be exactly anaglyphs.
No, it'd be two things together, and if you didn't move the camera, it wouldn't be stereo at all.
Well, this was for moving objects. We had things on Lazy Susans and things rotating in space, and it was kind of for like a live performance piece. So it worked pretty well.
Well, that's great.
There used to be an exhibit at the Exploratorium where they would have wire mobiles rotating in front of both a red and a green light, and the shadow that was cast would be an anaglyph 3D image.
Yeah, Jerry worked at the Exploratorium many, many years ago and did the Pulfric exhibit there. That may be one of the exhibits that you're talking about.
Well, that would be light and dark, and that would work with just a single shadow. Because it wouldn't have to be two images.
Right.
In the gift shop of the Exploratorium, they had like a postcard size thing with a rivet wheel, and you would turn the wheel and all the moire patterns would change. So weird. That was a fun thing. I bought one.
We had a field trip at the Exploratorium. It's been years now. It seems like it was yesterday, but yeah, when you're in town, be sure to stop by. And not only is it a fascinating hands-on science museum, but there are some great subjects for stereophotography as well in there. All right, well, thank you, Bob. I think you've inspired us all. I'm going to move on to one by Jack. And this is a native stereo photo, the title being Statue in Garden. Jack, tell us what we're seeing here.
Well, this is my my cactus garden in the backyard. I tend to like a little bit more stereo separation, probably than a lot of people like. But I just thought that little statue there looked so relaxed. Why part of the garden? Why it all would go together.
It looks hyper, but not too hyper on my loom pad.
Yeah, I'd say it's just about right.
Looks like Brussels sprouts on sticks. Looks fun.
Those are just the new sprouts of that particular succulent. They'll be as big as the big parts by the end of the summer.
To me, the sprouts are much more interesting than the statue. I would make that the... to me, that really is the subject of this photo.
I thought the statue was a rock.
Well, technically it is.
Oleg, how does this look?
I'm familiar with the that particular succulent. I don't have any idea what the scale of this is. Can you tell me how tall the statue is, perhaps?
Oh, 1.5 inches. Not 2 inches, I don't think.
Okay, I got it. That gives me a hint. Thanks.
So you could we could call this a macro, I guess.
Yep.
And I'd say that this works a lot better in 3D than it does on 2D. In 2D, you lose the effect of the little sprouts coming
Yeah,
out
the
of
sprouts,
this,
you don't see them anywhere near as...
yeah.
Jack, what are we looking at in the lower left corner? That is it a black rock like with like faces?
That's a quartz crystal.
Okay.
It just happens to... Usually it looks bright and shiny, but it's just collecting shade reflection, I guess.
Just trying to figure out what was reflections and what was facets.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has some transparency. Or maybe just the illusion.
That's one thing I like about the image is there's so many different things in it.
No, this is really nice.
You got nice even light over it too. No hot spots.
Yeah.
Was this on like a cloudy day or something?
May have been. I don't see any shadows. Well, I can see a shadow there right at the top of the quartz crystal. So I think the sun was shining.
Yeah. So you got nice
And also in the behind her head, that's all shadow. But it's just in a way that almost everything you're seeing has a sun shining directly on it.
Yeah. Yeah, very nice. Thank you, Jack.
I'd like to see more from this rock garden.
Well, I've already taken about 100 pictures of it, I think. I've been showing them for quite a while. But things grow up and they look different and they make a little different pictures, so I keep at it. You'll see more.
Yeah, Jack,
Good.
you could definitely put together an album of your rock garden photography, and just for those of us who haven't seen us, tell us about this rock garden. This is something you assembled in your backyard years ago, right?
Yeah, quite a while ago in my backyard. I collected stones from the High Sierra and Idaho and all sorts of strange places, and bought a couple of big ones. And it's right in the middle of my backyard. Other people would probably grow grass or something, but that takes a big section of it. But it's just built so it's. I always thought that a rock garden should have a lot of rocks in it, and these are. I got some really interesting rocks in this garden, and all sorts of little spots here and there that things can grow out of, like you see here. So it's just something you can play with off and on for years and years.
And there's a lot to explore with your camera too. This is just one tiny little spot.
Yeah.
And is that crystal to the right in the back? Is that like a quartz?
The upper right is quartz crystal, which I purchased. And on the left is a big boulder I collected, I think, someplace I think I bought that too. Some big ones that I wouldn't have carried back in my car that I purchased at some local companies around here. But all the smaller stuff I collected on 100 different trips.
Yeah, there are hundreds of photos still waiting to be taken in that rock garden. All right, thank you, Jack. Let's move on, and I've gone forward and back and forward, so if you're getting dizzy, I apologize. We're now moving forward to a conversion by Peter. Banff 1962 is the title.
In fact, I was in Banff when I was 15 years old in 1962. But that's just a coincidence. This is not from any photo I ever had or made. But I do remember all the old cars of that time and that classic mountain at the back where any Banff pictures will have that in there. And there's hot springs. There's a big, huge hotel there. It's a great place to visit if you haven't been.
Maybe you'll see yourself in one of these pictures.
That's right. I was thinking of doing some Zelig vintage ones. I haven't done any of those. Stick myself or movie star or some alien or anything in these things, just for fun. But there's quite a bit of smearing in this one. If you look at the traffic light, you can see smearing of the background, which is always a problem in some of these. You got to go in and fix them up and.
All of the
street lights.
Yeah.
All the street lights are messed up.
Yeah, indeed. But if you just look fast and don't study it, it's okay.
Yeah,
with the side-by-side glasses on, you don't see much of the smearing as much as bad.
We like to dwell on things. We're going to rip this apart, Peter.
Of course, of course.
But
if I just showed it to my Aunt Millie, she'd say, "Oh, that's delightful."
It is
you
delightful.
Guys will tear it apart and rip it up.
We love it. We do it out of love.
I know.
One thing I'll say about this, I enjoy this quite a bit. You could never capture this stereo photo in a camera. The way the mountain has that enhanced depth, all that detail, I I imagine you could do it with, two sets of exposures, one hyper and then one very hyper for the mountain. But it's a very unique way of seeing this.
Yeah, that's with a real camera. Yeah, you'd have to have some different parallaxes involved to get everything with 3D bounce in it.
Could be done, but not in one shot.
But with grayscale maps, of course, you can cheat.
I mean, it really makes that mountain look powerful.
Yeah. And there's hot springs there, so you can be halfway up the mountain and in the winter and have a nice warm bath.
Oh, nice.
Looking outside. Yeah.
All right. Very nice. Thank you, Peter.
Okay.
These are all of the conversions that you're showing us this evening. Are these all converted in Leapics initially? Is that what you're using for these?
This one, yes. I'm kind of moved to Leapics.
Right.
I was in something else, and when I first started 20 years ago, I did layering. Like cutting out every object and shifting it sideways, and that took me a long time. It looked good, but gosh, that was now I can whip these things off pretty well.
Make the machine do the work.
Let the machine do the work.
That's my philosophy.
And you got to still spend an hour because there's some really twisted lampposts and things that if you don't fix them, they're going to be very noticeable.
Yeah.
But anyway, I got it down to a system now.
Totally worth it.
I'm just waiting for my clone to come in and do the work for me, so I don't even have to do the work.
Don't wish too hard. They keep coming up with this tech, this game-changing tech.
Yeah, I think they might have that pretty soon. They got everything else happening.
Right.
Well, hopefully everybody will get their own AI assistant that will do whatever you like.
As long as it's an actual AI. I don't know if you saw this story about how Amazon had this drop it in your cart and it's paid remotely thing, and it turned out that it was just people in India watching from cameras and writing down what you put in your cart.
Yeah.
Oh.
Wow. Companies will do whatever it takes. I mean, it's clever, but yeah, it's not quite there yet.
Then we're fine.
All right,
well, I'm waiting till I can get a ham sandwich out of one of these devices.
Well, that was in the 30s. They had the automat.
Yeah. I made out of a phone or something I'm carrying on me, to say the word ham sandwich, a little bit of mustard, no rye. Okay, on rye.
You need
comes out.
You want a replicator then.
A replicator, precisely. Thank you, Melinda.
Yeah, I'm not holding out for that. But, a robot in the home, for sure. It could cook whatever food you have there. It could probably go shopping too.
Stepford wife, that's what I need.
So they have some 3D printers now that will print chocolate desserts. I saw a photo of, like a Ferris wheel that was printed with a 3D printer chocolate.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. So you can eat your photo basically on top of a cake or something.
Well, in that case, the printer material must be chocolate, so you could just eat that.
Cut off the middleman.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Let's move on to one by Oleg. A native stereo photo called Workmen on Ladders at Wall. And it looks like you were on a ladder too. Oleg, tell us about this.
This was taken in Chile. I was on a staircase, and it just happened to be perfectly for this kind of a picture.
And how long did you wait for the red car?
I can't remember. I usually I set my watch to count down 10 minutes. So it was probably around 10 minutes.
I wish it was just a little further into the scene.
Great.
Oh, I can fix that easily, but that's cheating.
Red roof in the upper left corner is a little distracting. That maybe should be green or something.
Tor, I think we missed that. That was pretty quiet. Can you say that again?
Upper left, you mean?
Here he comes.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to work with weird speaker and headphone situations, and it's just not happening today.
Well, we hear you clearly now.
Okay. But yeah, the red roof in the upper left-hand corner, I think, distracts a bit. Is it similar to the rest of the colors?
Yeah, that's my fault. I should have noticed that. Now I'm looking at it as a stereo pair, and it's hurting my eyes.
Is the building in the original image in both eyes, or is it only in the one?
I didn't do any monkeying with the image, so it was there. It's just oversaturated.
But it was never in the left eye. Is that right?
Right.
It's only in the right eye.
Is that red blotches are all artwork on the building? And what are those two guys doing there with the nailing thing on there?
I'm not sure. There was a fire, and they put the artwork was added after the fire.
Oh yeah, I can see the char marks on the wood frame there. Those ladders don't look too secure for those guys.
Well, they're experts.
I hope so.
I don't know if they have
That's true. That does look
Chile.
That does look risky.
Like, it looks like the skin tones have gone yellow in this one.
You may have just mentioned this, but on my monitor, the car on the left is cut off. I'm wondering if we're seeing the whole picture. Might we zoom in to this, perhaps? Is this the whole picture?
That is the whole picture.
Oh, okay.
It has to be 3D, so it's in a different location on the left eye.
Yeah, but sometimes something can be in both eyes, but then when you pull the stereo window back to an appropriate place, it starts cutting off one of them.
Yeah, I did that, and I did that. Whole car is available to me, but I went ahead and cut it off. I didn't think it was distracting.
Yeah, I think all if you keep the car in both images, then it'll make the wall on the right come far through the stereo window. So if you crop the wall instead of the car, it might be a good trade-off.
But you want that foreground detail on the wall. You want that red bird.
Yeah, you get the foreground detail. I mean, it'll still be the closest part of the image, but you'll be losing some of the red blob on the far right. So the question is, do you want the blob or the car? I think you might be able to choose.
I didn't want the car. The picture is on the right side. The reason I cut off the car, I didn't need to cut it off, but I wanted to downgrade the car.
Oh, okay.
The car doesn't bother me at all. I mean, I'm not getting any anomalies or anything just because it's cut off. And I like the way it's kind of aiming your eye at the graffiti and the art on the building.
Exactly.
Yeah, the car adds to the picture, I think. Plus, if you want to work really hard, you can steal pieces of the one side of the image and build up the other side.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, but you got to watch the depth and everything. But
there is one easy fix you can do that's kind of creative. If you put a black strip down the left side of the right eye, so that it covers exactly as much of the car as the other eye, then the stereo and everything will still be exactly the same, but there won't be that rivalry where there's half a car missing in one eye.
But the left end of the stereo image is not going to be in the right place.
Well, it will. It's just that it'll be black.
Like
So
the
you-
reverse of what I said, adding on one of them, you can just subtract on one and make it equal.
Right. If you wanted to use the car to sort of constrain the eye into the scene, then you can close it off on the side that's showing the whole car, so that it's so that you don't change the picture at all. You just paint in some black pixels down a strip of
No,
the one eye.
that
But
won't work.
you'd be changing the format of the two images. You'd have a smaller right.
No.
chip.
It's still the same. It just has black.
Yeah,
Just-
it
it's
would
black
look like
versus
somebody had
smaller.
their finger on the lens. You know, it would be disturbing, I think.
No,
I think you might be surprised. I've done this before. It works quite well.
no, the problem will be is that on the z-axis, that edge will be not on the window.
Exactly.
Yes, it'll be deeper than the edge on the right,
Yep.
but it'll be okay. It's
No, that's a distraction.
okay. Well, I'll just make the change myself, and maybe we can look at it.
Yeah, Melinda.
I
Another
think the
time.
telephone wires are a distraction up there. If you want to clone those all out and have fun.
That's a lot of work.
Melinda, let's. Why don't you do a fix-it, and we'll show it at the beginning of the meeting next week if you'd like. Just send it to me
Yeah, sure.
anytime.
That's
I'm
kind of what I meant.
curious to see.
Don't
what
waste
you're
your time.
describing.
I mean, I think it'll be interesting for people to see, but
Yeah.
but and you may hate it. It may be exactly what you expect, but you might see something interesting too.
No, I know exactly what it'll be, and it's not worth the trouble.
Well, I won't do it if you prefer that I not. It's
Well,
your
No,
it's,
you
it's
should
your
definitely
image.
do it, Melinda. I insist. I order you to do that fix-it.
Oh, well, Oleg has veto rights.
So we can.
Oh, go ahead and do it.
All right, then I'll do it.
I do think that this is an important discussion about what stereo photography composition is. And, I'm definitely more of a traditionalist, and avoiding retinal rivalry is something that's always on my mind when I'm composing and editing these. So I'm very curious. I'd like to continue this conversation next week, and we'll see if we'll see what this fix-it looks like, and if anyone else has any other ideas or suggestions. So thank you, Oleg. One thing that I was going to say is that it looks like the skin tones have gone yellow in the foreground figures, maybe because they were in shadow or something.
Yeah, in the shadow, I had to do a lot of work to bring out that dark side of the picture, and yeah, too much yellow there. You're right.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Oleg. We will we'll look at this again next week. And don't go anywhere, Oleg, because we've got another one by you. I didn't. I guess I could have randomized the list a bit more effectively, but what we have from you now is another native stereo photo. The title being "Street with Puddle Reflection in Chile."
Now this one is my four-dimensional picture. So I went ahead and matched the colors, especially the blue colors in the lower left and the van in the middle of the picture. They were different colors. I made them the same, figuring that it helped the composition.
I like it.
But by the way, the fourth dimension is not time. In this case, it's color. But a still photo has no time. That's the definition of a still photo.
I wasn't going to say anything, but since you actually brought it up, I Googled it and looked actually in several search engines, and all called the fourth dimension time. It's a still picture, but I think when you talk about the fourth dimension, it doesn't necessarily refer to a still picture. It just is a way of measuring things.
Well, they didn't talk to Oleg.
Oleg, you're a master at this, so I'm not. If this is what you want to call it.
I would suggest cloning the sliver of red, the lower left, out of the right chip. It's a little.
You mean at the top?
No, at the very bottom left on the right chip, you're seeing
Oh,
a sliver
yeah.
of another red object
Oh, yeah.
that you're seeing in the left. I mean, an easy fix, but
Yeah, I noticed that. Actually, what happened was there's another red item on the left that I cropped out.
Mm-hmm.
But when I did that, I didn't completely crop it out.
Yeah, I noticed it looking at the loom pad. Kind of stood out more.
That's definitely a fix it.
Oh yeah, no, it's easy.
I think this photo is really enhanced by all those electrical and telephone and utility wires hanging from those utility poles.
I like that the colors, again, in this four-dimensional concept, are in the puddle.
So Oleg has written a number of articles about his theories of stereo composition, but Oleg, I don't think you've given us one about your fourth dimension theory.
Yeah, I just thought that up about a half year ago.
Yeah. Well, I do think you need to publish a book about these theories, but before you do that, if you want to share an article with us, I'd love to post it on the web, on our website.
Okay, we'll do.
Which object was the original turquoise? Was it the posts or the light posts or the van?
Just the van. Everything else was the way it was.
All right. Well, thank you, Oleg. Peter, we're going to switch back to you for a conversion that is called Pontiac and Tree.
That's from some park in California in 1941. And I had to use, the toughest thing in this for me was to make the tree go off in the distance proportionally, which took a where there's in Photoshop they have a deviation filter. You put the grayscale color at the foreground at the trunk of the tree, and then where the leaves are at the back, and then draw a line across it, and it'll all grayscale nicely toward the distance. So, and then the woman was sitting a little awkwardly, and as she is now, she's a little too far forward. And I'm looking at all the mistakes now, and the woman with her hand looks weird. It's not connected to her sleeve on the one standing, and blah, blah, blah. But I had fun doing it. That's the main thing. And I think it's a great image for the car. I love that car. I wish I had one like that. That'd be wonderful, driving around in a convertible. And the headlights, of course, are out in the bumper. But other than that, it's and it was fun doing it. And it was the West. I tried to find things in the West for you guys. Although
It doesn't look like it could fit under the tree.
It
Sorry?
looks like in the original woman standing inside the car and the tree is over the car. And in the conversion, the tree is behind the car.
yes, I think you're absolutely right. The woman is standing in the car, and I've got her waist further back than through the windshield.
Yeah, the shadow is the giveaway, the shadow that goes over the car from the tree.
Ah, yes, thank you. That's a good point. Yep, the shadow has got no relationship. Oh my God, I'm gonna throw it away.
But that probably is the actual car because, it's a one of a kind, right? They could have made it that way with the light, the headlights up front.
Yeah, that's my excuse.
Sure.
Yeah.
But that's the shadow you mentioned of the trunk not completely out of line with the car is a real big giveaway on the car.
How did you say that? How did you say that you made this conversion? Is it just by hand or just one of these new methods?
No, it's one of the AI. If I was doing this with my ancient method of cutting everything out and moving them sideways,
Right.
I'd never have the errors that we see now.
Okay.
This is all AI and do a few whip. I over-focused on the trunk and forgot all the other elements, it seems. And I put a time limit on this stuff. There's a point where I just say, that's it. 1 hour, that's all you get.
That's smart.
I shouldn't have sent it in, but I did because I like you guys' critique. And Bob's suggestion of using the shadow as a clue, I never thought of that at all. And that's a very good idea for future depth placements.
I think it's a tough image to do if you're trying to do it.
Yeah, it is. It was a lot of little pieces in it.
Something I like about Leopix and these other apps is it does give you a starting point. And it handles at least 50% of the heavy lifting for you.
Yeah, I figure it gets you 80% of the way, and then it's an hour's work to get to 90, and then about 5 hours to get to 95.
Right.
Exactly.
And I forget it. I give up after 90 to me is close enough.
Yeah, you're wise not to chase those diminishing returns.
Yeah, that's good. Good point. The diminishing returns. You can sit and work on every little fan of the bumper there, with all the air intake and get it exactly right with the nose coming out a little. It'd drive you nuts.
What the AI does really well, which you would never be able to do by hand, is all the foliage, the branches of the fallen tree, the individual leaves, the blades of grass. The detail there is incredible. It's just so strange that the AI just gets the human figure so wrong. And I'm sure it'll get better. And I would imagine that once this AI, however it's working, understands that people's arms just don't bend like that and people don't hover over trees, they sit on them, then these things will just probably be indistinguishable from natives. It's so close.
Well, I find AI is good with people if they're in crowds. Massive people in a crowd really works well. Everyone's in the right place.
Yeah.
Often their hats are actually on top of their heads for most of it.
You showed us some of those with your San Francisco 1906 conversions.
Yeah, crowd scenes seem to work better than. I think maybe AI is having trouble with the woman in a tree. It doesn't relate as a natural a person, because they go by eye distance, I think, or, I'm guessing that head size means you're further back than the guy with the big head, that type of thing.
It all depends on what subject matter the AI was trained on. So it's often worthwhile to compare the Leopix results with the Marigold results, with the Midas results, the depth anything results, and find the one that really takes your image and works with it correctly.
I've done that before, and I noticed Marigold is quite good on foregrounds. Does nice detail in the foreground, and Leia's a little better in the back. And I have literally layered grayscale maps together and taken out the worst one parts and layer them down on the better part of another one below. But it's tricky again because the grayscale doesn't match the one below. You have to darken it or lighten it simply to match the depth of the one above. And it's tricky. But one thing about trees I found works quite well is to generally outline a tree vaguely, quite closely, but have about a 30 feather on it. So it's not totally ice cold delineation. And then go around with the blur, not the filter that has the darken and whatever that filter is called. It's a darken paintbrush and then a lighten paintbrush, and just blotch around inside the tree to bring a little bit of it out front, some of it back slightly, and that works pretty well for trees.
Dodge and burn.
Dodge and burn. Thank you very much, Steve. That's the name of that tool. I just look at the funny little symbols.
It won't be long. It won't be long before you can get all these AIs together, put them in a room and let them talk to each other, and they can talk about the problems the other one has, and they'll solve it. So it's all perfect.
Well, they'll say, why do we need people? We're the smart guys in the room.
That's the ultimate equation, yes.
Yeah, that day is coming.
All right.
It's going to take another month or so before we get there, I think.
Yeah, as long as the ham sandwich comes out, I'm okay. All right.
Well, thank you, Peter. Thank you. And Jack, while we've got you on the line, we have a photo by you next. This is a native stereo photo, and the title is Sunset. Tell us how you made this.
This is, and I want to talk to you about, but that's what you call a native stereo photo. This is it's another shot taken from my backyard. You might guess that I'm not traveling quite as much as I used to in the old days. But the stereo effect in the clouds, in fact, most of the upper part of the picture is all from the movement of the clouds. I just stood there just in one spot and took two pictures, maybe a minute or two apart. And then so that's the upper part of the picture. And that just turned out to be mostly a natural stereo effect of the way the clouds were moving. In the lower part of the picture is just a conversion basically by hand, and moving one to the left or one moving to the left or right to make them to create the stereo image.
So that's definitely a native shot, even though you didn't take it with synchronized cameras, and even though you manipulated it in Photoshop, you did take it with a camera. The original source is from a lens. So this does definitely qualify as native, yeah.
Oh, okay. I was wondering about that. If we're in competition, you've got to make a decision on it sometimes.
You know, you could argue, is this creative, or is this more of a record based on how you assembled it? But I would call this a stereo photo, not something that was a flat photo that was converted or to 3D either through layers by hand or using one of these AI apps.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, it can just be a perfectly normal cha-cha image. if you move a little bit in the direction opposite to the motion of the clouds, then you'll make a stereogram. And if you get some stereo out of the clouds for free because of that, I mean, nobody can really claim that you didn't move quickly enough between your two pictures.
I don't know if anybody else is using this on a TV. I'm having real trouble because the alignment is so far off. One of the images is way above the other one.
Yeah, it needs to be aligned. Auto align fixes that. It's still a lot of separation though.
Let me see if there's something
I actually did do auto align once on it.
This one needs to be aligned again then.
Yeah, there are some vertical misalignments that make it hard to view.
Yeah, the right eye is about 5% above the left eye.
Well, that's right. I could have just done that manually. I don't know why I left it that way.
Yeah, looks like we've got a 23 pixel vertical alignment error. And let me adjust this on the live streams. I've adjusted it on the Zoom stream. And let's see if it's a little easier to view. I'm using the auto alignment in Stereo Photo Maker. And if you're following along on YouTube, it'll pop up in a few moments. And yeah, that's a little bit better, I think.
Oh,
I needed to drag that right side over a little bit more. Water, that's coming forward too much.
Just use auto align. It's like the very first thing you do is auto align it, and then you can stop worrying about it.
You know, I think I may have sent in the wrong picture. I think I did it one step too soon.
It's possible, yeah. Well, you know, I just ran auto align, and it looks much better. It's much easier to view now.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you just run it through auto align, it'll solve any vertical misalignment issues that might make it hard to view. It's a really nice light going on there. You know, I really like the way the light is falling on that structure in the lower right corner. Not a lot of depth there. All the depth is in the sky, but it does lend an important sense of scale, I think, which we lose with hyperstereos. It's hard to gauge the actual size of something if you don't know how far apart the lenses were when the photo was made. So that, I think, really helps a lot. Yeah, beautiful day. Thank you, Jack. Let's move on to, this is a conversion by Peter that I think is going to generate a lot of discussion. Let me move on here. This is a conversion by Peter. The title is Safety Last. I think a lot of us know what this comes from. Peter, do you want to explain it for those of us who might not?
For those that might not know, that's from a Harold Lloyd movie, 1923, called Safety Last. And they cleverly, on top of a building, created a safe way for him to monkey around with that clock. Because right underneath them that you can't see in this shot, of course, is the like a net type thing and a proper place to land in case he let go of that thing. But it's a fabulous movie, silent movie, where a guy has to climb up the top of a building on the outside, and here he is. And just converted it from, I think there's a converted film of this thing, actually. Certainly, I've seen clips of this in 3D, so I'm not
Yeah,
the
there
first
is.
one to touch this. Yeah, and it looks great. So
It's
I just,
fabulous. They even colorized it and added a sound score to it. It's really wonderful.
Bob,
I
didn't you
should
show
try and
that at
dig
the
it up.
ATA a couple weeks ago, or a couple months ago, I guess it was now?
I'm sure
Yeah,
most everyone knows that Harold Lloyd was an avid stereo photographer.
That's right.
That's right.
Harold
Yeah,
Lloyd
he-
was a
So-
stereo photographer.
masses of realist slides.
So a funny thing, the Harold Lloyd episode of the New York Club got censored by YouTube.
Why?
Of course, he liked some risque pictures.
Yeah, there are a couple of books of Harold Lloyd's stereo photography published, and because, of course, of his close relationships with Hollywood stars, he got some very stunning and revealing stereo photos of Marilyn Monroe, Jane Mansfield. I'm holding one of his books right now, and I'll read a brief description. After he retired from the screen in the 1930s, silent film comedian Harold Lloyd was free to pursue his favorite hobby, photography. Beginning in the mid-1940s, Lloyd spent more than 2 decades using a 3D camera, that'd be a realist, to take pictures of his friends and neighbors. And all of his friends and neighbors were rich, famous, and beautiful. So they are really well-made and enjoyable stereo photos. I'll hold that book up at the...
his granddaughter, I think, did a presentation at one of our NSAs.
Yeah, she's the one who put the books together.
Yeah, so...
Right.
Absolutely right. So he belongs here simply for his interest in 3D, never mind our interests in it. And he had something like 3 fingers missing on one of his hands from an
On
accident.
his left hand, a prop bomb exploded, and in this shot, he's wearing a glove with a rigid prosthetic thumb that he's able to grip to some degree with. Yeah.
Phenomenal that he can do all these stunts with half a hand, but
Well, thank you, Peter.
thank you, everybody,
And,
for looking at this.
Thanks for sticking with us. If you need to fall asleep, we've seen all of yours, so we want to show off what we have for you, but we forgive you if it's getting
Thank
late
you.
there.
No,
Of
I'll
course.
keep hanging in as long as I can.
Please do. We love having you. That said, Oleg, here is one by you, a native shot, of course. Photographers capture Volcan Osorno.
Yeah, it just so happens that it appeared on a poster on the side of the building. So this is another 4-dimensional. I got all the blues to match between the poster and the real picture.
Now, what's happening in that poster? Am I seeing 3D?
Yeah, I
in
did a
that
3D
image?
conversion of the photographer in the picture. He was originally part of the poster, brought him out a bit.
That's a very clever idea there, the composition and putting 3D into a flat piece of that. That's a great idea.
Yeah, I like the fact that the same mountain appears both in my photograph and in the other photographer's photograph. Which is another problem because he was probably put in artificially into the picture of the mountain on the right side.
Of course.
So I gave him a bit more life.
And you have the strict division right down the middle. On the right, you have kind of a picture of what will be happening or what could be happening, and then on the left, the right side of the image, that could be you, the photographer, taking the picture, and then the left side of the image could be the photo that the photographer made, if that makes sense.
That's the theme, yeah. One thing I considered doing, and maybe I still will do, the photographer on the right side is shooting horizontally, and if he was actually taking that picture, that's the way he would have done it.
Ah, yes.
So I was gonna lift up that his camera on the left side, so it points to the boat or the ship. Right now, he's shooting into the water.
I'd be curious if you took him out of the poster, leave him on the poster in 2D, but have his 3D self flipped on the left, taking the shot of the mountain as a converted. So he's in 2 time frames at the same time.
Well, yeah, that's interesting that that's 3 pictures. Oh, well, counting the other 4 pictures at the bottom of the poster, they're all taken at different times.
Mm-hmm. But since the bottom of his legs gets cut off anyway, it might be interesting to put him on that left side of the photo in 3D.
Or put a pair of legs out by the dock.
Yes, right.
All right. Well, thank you, Oleg. Beautiful.
Is that a notice for a lost child or something in the?
Yeah, I couldn't get if you look at it right, you'll realize it's a picture of a dog, but you have to use your imagination. It's a lost dog.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Oleg.
Yeah.
And Bob, while we've got you, here is one of your entries, a native shot. Carrots Farmers Market is the title.
That works in so many ways. The thin tendrils are fantastic. Every carrot all stuck all over the place coming at us. It's wonderful.
Really great.
Thanks. I liked it.
That's lovely. It's very almost disturbing.
And I love how some of them are through the window.
Could have Carrot Top sticking his little head out of the middle of it.
Yeah, I thought about putting a bunny in it for Easter, but I
Yeah, that would be like
myself.
you.
Yeah.
No,
Maybe
keep it
subtly,
simple.
a little head peeking out there.
The through the window effect is really nicely pronounced on the loom pad, and even the anaglyph version of this, I'm streaming a half color anaglyph, so they're not exactly oranges, but the few that are through the window, it's very effective.
Well, orange is one of those anaglyph friendly colors.
Yeah, right. Yeah, regardless, it looks much better as a side-by-side. So, Bob, was this a cha-cha? Is this...
Yeah, this is with my iPhone.
Yeah.
The only manipulation I did was you could see the background of the farmer's market at the very top of the frame, and I went in there with the clone brush and added some greenery where there was bright white. That's about it. Oh, and I did cut off some of the tendrils at the bottom that were kind of violating the window.
I see.
Did you try to look at it in grayscale?
No, I didn't.
I think it would be a better picture in grayscale.
Did you take a couple of cha-chas and then pick the best 3D one of a group?
You know, most of the time I'll take 3. If I really like the subject, I might take 4 or 5 and then fool around with it. But it just gives me more work later to, okay, do I want to go this deep or that deep?
And you've got the experience to know how far to move sideways on these shots anyway.
Well, hopefully, but you know, if you want to make it deeper or shorter, nice to have a choice. So harder to go back later and do it.
Because something like this would make a good pulsar, which would be a group of, say, 8. You could take 8 shots sideways with either cha-chas or any other way you get them, and then create 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4 anaglyphs. So the pulsing deeper, shallower as a GIF animation. It'd work well with all these carrots, I think.
All right. Well, thank you, Bob. And yeah,
Sure.
certainly timely and topical. Let's move on to one by Jay. And the title of this is Log. Jay, if you're there, you are.
Yes.
Tell us about where you made this.
Brioni Park. It's part of the Warhill Conversation. Like the Warhill Company has its private trails. Yeah, so it's nearby. And this was actually at the start of the trail. And just a cha-cha. They're playing with the curve to, you know, get the highlight detail.
Well, it's a great
Yeah,
through the
that's-
window composition. Such an interesting study in textures. The old mossy, rough bark exterior, and then this smooth cut.
Yeah, the trees didn't seem like they were dead or anything, that they just, you know, cut away for the trail. And
this one looks so much better in 3D. As in 2D, everything is kind of mushed together. I mean, you can see it's a photo of a log, but there's not much else to it.
One.
Beautiful shot.
One.
Let's see. I think we're getting some feedback. Okay, seems to have ended. And really nice light too, Jay. I can see looks like I see some backlit leaves. That really separates them.
Yep, late afternoon.
Especially in 3D. Very nice. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
Jack, we've got one of yours up next. And Mushrooms is the title, and it looks like the subject.
Well, that was a picture I took up by my place. The resolution isn't real sharp, but I thought they were pretty.
Yeah, how did what happened to the resolution? Did you crop in or something?
I'm not sure. That was taken in my front yard with my iPhone, with my cell phone, and I don't know. I would normally have thrown it away, but I like the mushrooms so much, I decided to go ahead and do it.
Yeah, I think this has some great depth in it. It's really cool. I mean, seeing how the mushrooms jut out. I am seeing a lot of retinal rivalry in the texture, in the tree texture. I just look at various places and it seems to be boiling. I don't know if that's a 3D term, that's an animation term, but kind of jittering from one eye to the other. The lighting change or something changed, of course. Somebody needs to be muted, I think.
They're muted.
In the course of moving your phone from from one place to the other. I don't know. Does anybody else see that?
It's a window violation. If you push it back behind the window, you wouldn't have that problem. But it's the highlighted areas of bark in the upper left-hand corner is forward of the frame.
Well, I'm seeing it in the center of the tree. Almost everywhere where there's bark, I'm seeing a little retinal rivalry. Not a terrible amount. You could probably just throw it subtly out of focus and that would fix it. But I am seeing something.
I see what you're seeing also. I think it's just it gets down to the resolution, and there are sort of different, I don't know, different patterns, different noise patterns that are causing a bit of rivalry. It's not that it's not too distracting for me. It's not as if I don't see the shape or the form of the trunk. But it's as if there's sort of like a noise or a grain or something that I see that's causing some rivalry there.
Trunk's about 3 feet in diameter, so yeah, I don't know. There may be some problems with the bark in that the amount I moved from left to right, the actual shadow may have turned out a little different than in those little nooks and crannies. I don't know.
I guess that's possible too. Yeah, I wonder, Jack, if you still have the original photos, this original pair. It might, if you have the higher resolution originals, it might clear up these rivalry issues that we're talking about.
No, I looked at it at the original, and I could see them there too.
Huh. I wonder, maybe it was the phone setting or something. Because I know your Samsung is capable, as we've seen. It takes really, really high resolution shots. That said, I'm looking at this in stereo, and of course the stereo, we're basically combining the resolution of 2 photos, so it doesn't look extremely soft to me looking at it on my devices. That's one benefit of stereo photography.
Yeah.
Well, looking at the side-by-side view, that right image is out of focus.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it does. The right does look softer than the left. All right. Well, I think it's a lovely image with a perplexing technical glitch, we'll say. But are those mushrooms still there, Jack?
I'm sorry?
Are those mushrooms still there? Is it too late for a redo?
They're still there, but I think they're starting to get a little ragged.
Well, we'll stick with the photo that you have.
I'll get them next year.
All right. We'll compare them next year. Thank you, Jack. Jay, we are moving on to another aerial of yours. This is a native aerial cha-cha. Aerial Mountains 2 is the title.
And same thing, cell phone. Think this was in California. And I just took a bunch at a few second intervals. And I think these were only like 2 seconds apart, maybe less.
Yeah, you don't have to wait long between exposures.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Pretty happy with the texture and depth.
Yeah, I think your
Yeah, the
spacing is
separation-
just perfect.
Not too extreme, right?
All right, thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
Oh, and we've got one of mine up next. The title is First Admission, and that tells you the subject as well. I'm not entirely pleased with this one. The subject is really intended to be the cables above the street, but because of my angle and I think because of the wide lenses I was using, that little cart really sort of became the subject. If I was using more telephoto lenses, then also the people in the yellow vests wouldn't appear so far away. They'd appear to be as close as they actually are. And then finally on this one, which I'm not really that satisfied with, I had to do a lot of work to this because I had been shooting a very bright scene and I had my camera set manually, and this was actually in dark shadows. So I ended up doing a sort of a high dynamic range with 6 different exposure levels that I made in Camera Raw. But I really did the high dynamic range by hand. I just stacked these layers and then erased the darker scenes to reveal the lighter scenes underneath where necessary. And there are some artifacts. There's an artifact at the far curb. I think there are some other artifacts also. So it turned out better than I thought it would, but it's not exactly the photo that I was after. One more thing I'll say about this: I've spent a lot of time over the past 30 years in this neighborhood, and this is the one angle you can shoot this area, and it still looks more or less like it did 30 years ago. Everything else around it has been torn down, rebuilt, and of course right behind me is the Transbay Terminal and the Salesforce Tower, which really redefined South of Market in San Francisco, but you can't see that from here.
Your matching of the lighter areas and darker areas is magnificent. It looks beautifully composed and lit properly.
Than I
And
expected.
that reflection in the windshield of the building through the windshield looks quite enticing too.
Oh, yeah.
Worked really nicely.
Yeah, thanks. I like that too. Forgot to mention that. Thanks for pointing it out.
Well, from when I'm doing my stuff and all that vintage stuff, I'm a monster on tram lines, telephone wires, and things. I try to get rid of most of them if I can. Clone them out or get rid of them. But that's in a thing where you're focusing on that stuff, it came out very nicely, actually.
I would be curious to see what a converter would do to one view of this, what it would do with those cables. They do tend to trip up on those.
That would be a good test. Take one half and convert it and see what it does to it.
Yeah, I'll probably do
Good
that.
idea. Yeah, good idea.
Conversions I've seen generally make cables and tree branches point straight up instead of coming forward.
Yeah, I've seen some weird telephone lines and telegraph lines, and they just AI does not know what to make of those.
And I bet if you converted one half, the guys at the back with the yellow jackets, their heads would not be on top of their bodies, just from experience.
Right.
You could shift them quickly, but they would be somewhere else, farther forward, probably.
I've noticed that too, yeah. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Let's move on to one by Steve. The title being Big Jiminy. I think we know who Jiminy is here.
Still muted. Okay, yeah, I did a presentation at the Disneyana Club. These are a bunch of Disney collectors and Disney fans, and this woman had wall-to-wall Disney collectibles. I mean, every square inch of her house was just covered with Disney stuff. So I took some pictures, and it's just shots with my Samsung phone. And I kind of took a page from you, Matt, because the lights, I'm kind of shooting the lights coming towards me, and I kind of like the way it lights up, edge lights, Jiminy. Other than that, it's just pretty straightforward. I mean, I did some cropping and a little color manipulation and affinity. When I did paint out, there was a black square on the table. I'm not even sure what it was, but it was coming through the window, and you couldn't tell what it was, so I just painted it out.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I see one error, and that is that I love how Jiminy is coming through the window, but the hat is actually cut off at the top. So it creates sort of an odd intersection there. If you have more of his hat, I'd maybe make it a false frame and have it peeking through.
I should try that. That crossed my mind, but I did what I think probably a lot of people do. I waited too late to get these ready to send.
Of course.
And I realized, I don't know if I have time to do that. And there's plenty of this is probably all there is in the picture, but it certainly would be easy to make up anything that's missing. It doesn't really look like there's much missing.
Just a little corner, yeah.
I could put a black bar. Yeah, I could put a black bar at the top, and that would totally push him out. That's actually worthwhile. Yeah, I should have done that.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to do
suggestion.
Much. I think it would greatly.
There's
no, it'd be easy.
You got a slight anomaly below Mickey on the table there that would be easy to paint out. It's
yeah, I was trying to figure out what that was.
I see it. I don't know why I didn't see it before, but that's probably that black square or box or whatever it was.
Yeah, I was thinking that would mention it. Yeah,
didn't do it right.
But an easy fix. Nice photo.
Yeah, thanks.
Steve, are those parrots on that pillow? Are they Disney characters? They must be, right?
No, that's the Enchanted Tiki Room.
Okay, so you wouldn't want to crop that out because it is Disney.
Oh, we crop it just because it's not Disney, or is it just like compositionally? bothering you? I don't know.
No, I was going to suggest that if, you could crop it a little bit more tightly, but then again, you wouldn't want to lose that pillow because it does have Disney characters on it. So
Yeah,
I withdraw my
kinda like-
suggestion. I recommend you keep it as is.
I'll bring back your suggestion. I think you could crop out that whatever that tube is on the right. And
I was just gonna say that. It just occurred to me that probably isn't adding that much to the picture. I could crop.
and you can lose a little bit of Dumbo's ear there, and it is violating the window at the top.
There you go. Okay.
And maybe cropping a little bit of the chair on the left without losing the pillow would be okay too.
I could get a little better composition doing that. Although I like the pattern on the arm of the chair, so I want to keep some of that.
Yeah.
And the illumination on the chair is really nice too. I wouldn't want to lose that. It lends a lot. Steve, now is that Mickey? Is that public domain Mickey? Is that Steamboat Willie Mickey, or is that hands off?
That's a
Mickey?
later, and that looks like about a 1934 or 5 Mickey. So, but who knows what's what? Disney's not too up in arms about people using Mickey. I mean, use Mickey, it's still a registered character.
Right.
So it's kind of like anybody who uses Mickey is just giving Disney free advertising.
Steamboat Willie Mickey has the white hat.
So this is just a photograph. I don't think there's anything wrong with taking a photograph. You're not claiming it's your Mickey. It's a photograph.
Right.
Oh yeah, there's never a problem. Okay, I know it's getting late, but I'm gonna tell you a quick story. I had a job interview at Disney, and I showed my films, and one of my films, which is sort of a self-portrait, has a clip from a Mickey Mouse cartoon. And so they're running the films, and I realized, oh my God, I'm sitting at the Disney studio, and I'm about to show a film I stole from them. And I would thought, oh, maybe if I trip and accidentally unplug the projector, we can just stop the whole thing right there. And I let it play, and nobody said anything. Didn't matter.
It was the last thing on their minds.
I read somewhere that they don't rent costumes of Disney characters because they're afraid of someone committing some horrible crime dressed as a Disney character. Has anyone else heard about that?
I've never heard that.
I've seen some Disney characters on Hollywood Boulevard that seem to be up to
they're
no good.
they're in Times Square, and I think I've seen them in costume stores, and certainly you could make your own.
Wait a minute. Was it you, Steve, who submitted a photo of 2 Disney characters with their heads off?
Yes, I did. That was in New York, and then I submitted one on Hollywood Boulevard. I think there was a Mickey, or maybe it was somebody else. But yeah, it was definitely. There's lots of Disney characters, so yeah, I think maybe that's not a true.
I'm glad my thought was an old wives' tale. I'm glad you can rent the costumes.
They may just make them on their own. They're probably not any sort of official licensed merchandise, those street performers. But thank you, Steve.
Thanks, everybody.
We're going to move on. I appreciate everyone who can staying a little bit late rather than trying to rush things and wrap up by 9, which is 5 minutes away. I'll be spending the same amount of time on the remaining photos that we have, and we've got about half a dozen or so. So I hope you can stick with us. If you do need to drop off at 9 o'clock, we certainly understand. And apologies for going over. As hard as I try, I just We just always go over, so I'm not fighting it anymore. So with that, let's hear from Jack. This is a native stereo photo. The title is Ceiling Light.
There's a really simple image. It's not much to say about it, but I just thought it made a pretty 3D image. It's hanging down from a ceiling in a coffee shop.
Is there some reason the color doesn't match on the left and right image?
Yes. That's just a way of trying to bring out the what do you call it? The
Are you shooting for retinal rivalry?
that's just a minor use of retinal rivalry.
Yeah, I think it's really effective because it doesn't draw attention to itself, but it gives the photo a certain quality, kind of an iridescence almost.
Yeah, that's what I felt about it.
I think it really works for the subject, which is a lamp.
I'm trying it with the auto stereo or auto color correction. I think it looks better when they're the same shades. Because it's really about the geometry. It's not, some subtlety of color or anything.
There's no reason to believe that each of us sees the same thing when we look at the image either.
Right, and when the shades were a little bit different, then nobody notices. But if they're different enough, then it could be a distraction or a feature if you like it.
I like the retinal rivalry effect myself. And yeah, if you're not looking, if you don't know that they are different colors, you're not going to know it if you're just looking at the stereo version.
It just gives more life to it to me. But I like to do things strange anyway.
Yeah, I like to too. It's you can often find interesting effects.
We've seen some great lamp stereo photos this past year or two as well. Well, thank you, Jack.
And this is a lot prettier than any other lamp I've ever seen in a coffee shop.
Yeah, it's a great subject. Let's take a look at one by Steve. Steve, I'm going to put you in the hot seat because we've got two in a row from you. This coming up next is Rainbow over Animal House.
So this is in my neighborhood. Last week I was taking a walk and there was a pretty distinct rainbow. And I often walk by this house that has all these sculptures of real and fantasy animals. There's a dragon prominently on the left-hand side. And I wish I could have gotten the clouds on that. Behind me were these really beautiful fluffy clouds. Maybe that's related to why we were seeing a rainbow, because the sun was coming through the clouds. But I couldn't get the rainbow and the clouds in the same picture. So anyway, I like this house. I mean, I saw it kind of build. It was a really boring gray box. And then they built it up and redesigned it. And then they started adding all these sculptures. There's even a Popeye in there. It's kind of out of place because it's not an animal. But it's kind of anything goes.
It looks like they trimmed that tree on their side of the property line.
Maybe I can't.
think the fence is nice in stereo. My loom pad is having a lot of trouble with it. It just doesn't do well with those sorts of high contrast fine details, but everywhere else it looks really nice.
Yeah, well, the vertical, a long line of vertical things can be a problem, especially with stereograms, because you can have difficulty figuring out which ones you need to converge. But I'm not having a problem with the these prism glasses or mirror glasses.
Yeah, I'm sure I photographed the same rainbow, but not in stereo.
Well, it's just a cha-cha.
Now, do the physics of rainbows allow rainbows to actually be photographed in stereo? Could you have a wide enough hyper rig to actually photograph a rainbow in stereo, or is it always going to be at infinity?
Infinity.
Well, it's not a physical thing. It's a distortion of light. So I probably couldn't get a 3D image of it.
It's not a 3D object. It's not an object at all, like you say.
Yeah, I mean, didn't I just say that?
Yeah, it's a mirage. It's not. Yeah, it's not a literal thing. It's a phenomenon.
Yeah.
So we'd have to enhance it in post.
You have to have enough moisture in the air for a hyper to see the rainbow with both eyes. But I think there would be an unexpected depth issue.
I think that was Tor. I'm having a little trouble hearing you. Are you far from your mic?
I don't know what the deal is. I'm
we can
using
hear
an
you.
external speaker that's intruding or interfering. Do I sound better right now?
Now you sound fine. You seem to kind of be going in and out.
Standing directly in front of the computer. I was just saying, the thing about doing a hyper of a rainbow is you would need enough water in the air across a larger amount of space to see the rainbow from both vantage points. And if that was possible, then you might see some strange depth effect. But you'd need enough rain in the air, to see it from both perspectives.
Well, now, didn't somebody take pictures of the aurora borealis in 3D? And is that a different thing?
That's a different thing.
Is it aurora borealis? Is that like clouds or something?
You can think of it like clouds, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, Steve. Let's look at another one by you. Do not sit.
Yeah, this is the same house. I wish I could have gotten a good 3D angle of like one of her walls, but it just didn't. So this is from a similar area. You can see the same light coming through, and just do not sit, because she said, don't sit on that, just because the fabric was getting kind of worn out. And, you could sit on most of the stuff, but yeah, I don't think she wanted you touching these statues.
Too bad, because it kind of defeats the purpose of that cushion being on display.
Oh, yeah, because she could have cut the bottom of the do not sit sign so you could see the artwork a little better. I don't think there's so much other artwork to see.
Is not the Sorcerer's Apprentice a sort of early form of AI gone wrong?
Well,
Magic AI.
I don't call it technology. It's magic gone wrong. So I guess you could look at it as analogous to AI.
I mean, there's the mythological golem, which is basically that. It's mud that's been turned into
similar
a
story.
I'd say the brooms are more like a virus because they self-replicate, continuous simple tasks.
Yeah.
They'll deny service.
Mickey is rather violent in that way because he does murder that creature. At least he attempts to.
All right. Well, thank you, Steve. Yes. Now, Steve, I think you told me that at one point Disney considered shooting Fantasia in 3D.
I have heard that, because Fantasia was the first film in stereophonic sound.
Yes.
So he was definitely open to new technologies, and he did have a 3D theater in Disneyland. I don't think it was an opening, but I think by about 1960 he did have 3D.
And they were also working with the multiplane. Would have been.
That's right. He was very interested in depth because he developed a multiplane camera for Snow White, and that was a way of creating the illusion of depth on two-dimensional film. So I think there was so much other stuff going on. And but the technology did exist in 1940.
It would have been
maybe
interesting.
It wasn't advanced enough because it was another 13 years before it hit the mass market.
Well, today, of course, we can just convert it. run your DVD through your Loom pad.
And some of the older members here have seen my images from Fantasia, which is sort of my #1 film for what should be converted to 3D.
That's right. You've done your own conversions.
Yes, one frame at a time.
All right. Thank you, Steve. Bob, thanks for hanging in there. We've got 2 of yours coming up. I didn't intend to make you wait until the very end of the evening, but appreciate you hanging in there. What we're looking at now is called Chinese Lantern. Bob,
it's another.
There he is.
Cha-cha.
Hey.
My limb pad is acting up here. There we go. Oops. People there?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
We've got, we're looking at Chinese Lantern. Tell us about this one.
Well, I love Abutilon plants, and this one finally is blooming up against my house. And oops, there we go.
Sorry about that.
So yeah, it's just a cha-cha with my iPhone, and I just love these plants.
Yeah, beautiful.
I've seen them before, but I've never seen them in this sort of geometry with a big open shelf.
Great. I've got a lot of shots of. They're all different. The blooms are coming in at different stages, and they're different colors, from purples, reds, oranges.
Does that plant eat insects, sort of like a pitcher plant? It kind of looks.
No, I don't believe so. Not like at least I haven't seen it. I'll have to check on that, maybe.
Great window placement too.
Thanks.
So when do they turn to look like this? I mean, I'm used to seeing them as they look like whole persimmons or something normally, but this is open at the bottom.
Yeah, no, there are a lot of different types. Generic, it's an abutilon plant, and they go by different names. But it's just one of my favorites. I've got 3 of them on my property right now.
Yeah, I've never seen this one. I love those crazy red veins.
Oh yeah, I just love them.
Great subject.
Yeah, great subject, great color. I love, the even illumination. I don't see any hot spots. I'd love to see more inside of that blossom, but as it is now, it has such nice texture. It's I just want to reach out and grab it.
Do you have it in higher resolution?
Well, this is, cropped and resolved down. So, yeah.
But you don't have a higher resolution at this size?
I'd have to check the original. It didn't bother me. It seems sharp.
Yeah, it's fine for our purposes, but 1080 high is not that much. I'd like to see it.
Oh no, I have got much more. I mean, the iPhone 15, gives me at least 3 times that.
Yeah, I'd love to see it in stereo at that resolution.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you, Bob. We've got one more of yours, but first, we have one of mine. The title is Free Bollywood Choreography Class at Salesforce Park. And, if you didn't know that this was a dance lesson, you might not realize it because everyone is so out of step. It's just chaos. It would have been a much better photo if these dancers were actually synchronized. Additionally, I think if I were higher up, it would be a more interesting shot. And when I was taking this shot, I was thinking of Jay's pole extension, an invention that he showed us a while ago, which allows him to get elevation with his W3 and actually fire the shutter remotely from the base of the pole. That would let us see more faces and more of this action. As it is, I think I was lucky where the light was coming, and I took quite a few of these. This is the one I chose. None of them were any better in terms of these dancers being more coordinated, but this one we could see their faces, and they do look like they're having fun. I noticed when I looked at this on my 3D TV, it looked really grainy, which is something that I need to look into. I think that is an artifact of my cameras. Looks okay now. I don't know if anyone else out there is having the same experience. Yeah, this is actually on St. Patrick's Day of all things. So, yeah, lots of changes in the city as well. All right, let's take a look at our last photo of the evening. That is by Bob. And hey,
back at Salesforce.
It's Salesforce Transit Center, San Francisco. And yeah, when that comes up for you, Bob, take it away.
No, I'll be here. I don't really have a lot to say about it. I just like the composition and was curious how people responded to it.
Was the plane there, or did you add the plane?
Well, I could take a vote.
It was added, but it was added very well. It's just a little bit below the clouds.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it is added. And I couldn't decide, but I like the composition with the plane. So,
Yeah.
and since it is the transit center, I thought it was appropriate. So.
No, it's perfectly fine.
You
For me, the interesting
could
thing
have
is
put a
the,
bus up there if it was a transit center.
Yeah, right.
It's the alignment of those buildings, each going deeper and upper is fantastic. The way you got those composed or found the spot for them,
Thanks.
even without a plane.
Yeah, I liked it with that, but it kind of it balanced it nicely for me just to have it there.
Indeed, wonderful.
Yeah, I think
that
this really
the filigree
works.
pattern in the paneling in the middle
Yeah.
is pretty famous. It's called a Penrose tiling,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a tiling of the plane using two identical shapes, and you can tile the plane infinitely far, but it will never create a repeating pattern. So it's called an aperiodic tiling, and in the mathematics community, it's they're really having their moment in the sun. Somebody figured out an aperiodic tiling that has only a single unique base shape. And,
No, I love it. I love the texture and the contrast with the other surface.
yeah, it's a weird thing. I mean, math people really love it because of what it represents. But then I think aesthetically, I want to see a pattern, and there is none. So it's for me, it's kind of frustrating. But mathematically, it's very interesting. I think they also used a similar tiling in the floor tiling somewhere in that building, but I haven't been in there.
Yeah, I haven't explored the inside that much. I love the garden on the roof.
I haven't been up there either. I have to.
Oh, you should see it. It's fantastic.
Well, you
Maybe we
just
could,
saw a Bollywood dance rehearsal, so you get a sense of it.
Maybe we could do a field trip there.
It's a great location. Yeah, very photogenic. Okay, well, thank you, Bob. That
Sure, thank you.
is the last photo of the evening. We are not done yet, though, if for those of us who have access to a computer and who would like to participate in our straw poll. I'm going to put that in the chat here in just a moment. As soon as I find that. And
I'm going to have to take off.
Yeah, I appreciate you staying late.
Can I say one thing real quick?
Absolutely.
Hey, it's Evan here from the Internet Archive. I wanted to invite you all. We are going to be showing a public domain film, Audrey Hepburn's Charade, not this Friday, but next Friday evening at 6:30. So if anyone would like to attend, it's at 300 Funston Avenue in San Francisco. And I have, normally the tickets are $5, but I have a friend's discount for you all. So then it's free. So if you want to attend, it's not this Friday, but next Friday. And I figure you're all film enthusiasts. So I'd just like to share that with everybody.
Oh, thank you, Evan. Yes.
A great movie, too.
Yeah. Will you play the airfare from Toronto return to go see it?
The discount codes are not that deep.
Oh, okay.
Is that Stanley Donen?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Evan. And for those who haven't, the Internet Archive, and Evan in particular puts on some great events, and a couple of us have been to them. And hope to see you there. Yes. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go through the slideshow one more time. I've put the link to the straw poll in the chat. And what I would like those of us who have access to a web browser and who can do this right now, I'm going to run through the slideshow again. I'm just going to spend maybe 2 or 3 seconds on each photo just to so we can remember what we've seen. And then I'd ask that you select your 3 favorites from the evening. This isn't a competition. This isn't about winners or losers, but we do want to have a sense of what we all liked best. So let me share my screen again, and we'll run through this. And of course, those of us who are following along on the YouTube streams, there'll be a lag of a few seconds. We're starting with image number 1 here. Peter's conversion, 3rd Avenue, Seattle, 1934. And let's go through these real quick. This is Aerial Mountains 1 by Jay. Lakeside Park and Mount Osorno by Oleg. View of 345 California Street from Battery and Halleck Alley by Matt. Selfie on Cobblestones by Bob. Statue in Garden by Jack. Banff 1962 by Peter. Workmen on Ladders at Wall by Oleg. Street with Puddle Reflection in Chile by Oleg. Pontiac and Tree by Peter. Sunset by Jack. Please consider the auto-adjusted one rather than the original one. Safety Last by Peter Sinclair. Photographers Capture Volcan Osorno by Oleg. Carrots Farmers Market by Bob. Robert Bloomberg, I should say. Log by Jay. Mushrooms by Jack. Aerial Mountains 2 by Jay. First and Mission by Matt. Big Jiminy by Steve. Ceiling Light by Jack. Rainbow Over Animal House by Steve. Do Not Sit by Steve. Chinese Lantern by Bob. Free Bollywood Choreography Class at Salesforce Park by Matt. And Salesforce Transit Center SF by Bob. So let's spend no more than 2 minutes selecting our 3 favorites from the group.
Now, wait a second. It says at the bottom, voting ends in 14 hours and 40 minutes.
You've got...
I would like that amount of time to try to decide amongst these. Because these are so many beautiful ones.
It's a tough it's the hardest choice you're going to make for the rest of the day. I can assure you of that. Yes. If you really need 14 hours, we can review the results when we meet again next week.
I'll mail it in.
Okay. And then while we make our selections, I will just add that our next meeting is next week. That is Tuesday, April 9th. we have our special subject, that is using the Stereo Photo Maker mirroring feature, although you don't need to use Stereo Photo Maker if you prefer to do the same kind of effect in Photoshop or another program, that's fine. And if you have not yet submitted mirrored photos for next week, I will accept them up until Sunday the 7th. So it's not too late to get those in. I've received quite a few already, and I'm looking forward to showing them. Okay, does anyone need more time making their selections? I'll give it another 20 seconds before I show the results. And next week I will make a better effort to wrap up by 9 o'clock. I really do appreciate your time. I just hate to rush any of these photos. All right, let's take a look at our results. Here we go. Thank you for selecting my California Street Cha-Cha. I guess technically it's a tie with Bob. That says a lot. And Oleg tied with himself and Bob. Bob is everywhere here. So, of course, this isn't a very scientific result. We have a pretty small sample. Nevertheless, I think this does indicate that we all have our own opinions about what we like and what we don't like. But thank you very much. Before I call it in for the night, there are a couple things I wanted to show. We were talking about Harold Lloyd. There are a couple of photos, a couple of books of his stereophotography that have been printed. And both of them, these two are both very flawed. The Nudes is published in full color anaglyphs, not the best way to view stereo photos in my opinion. And this 3D Hollywood is very nice, side by sides, but some of them are pseudo. And there's nothing anyone can do about that. That's all I have for the evening before we shut down and regroup next week. Does anyone have anything they would like to share or add?
I would just like to announce on that voting that's the first time I've ever got a vote on anything.
Oh, well.
And I'd like to thank my mother very much.
Right. Well, congratulations.
That's great. Yeah.
Actually, looks like you got 2 votes for two different photos. So
I know I'm in shock, but that's a great system there. That whole thing of voting quickly with result. Blah. I don't know why other places don't use this system. It's marvelous, in my opinion.
Well, I'm actually planning on thinking of stealing the Cascade Stereo Club's voting tool. They have a nice thing that Herb developed himself that lets you do it on a smartphone. And anyway, Straw Poll is nice. They handle it all. And thank you, Peter. Yeah, as I said, we used to be a competitive club, and then I said, hey, we're not competitive anymore. And then everyone said, well, but we still want to see the scores. So I think this is a fair compromise until we come up with something a little more sophisticated. But yeah, we do like to see the favorites. All right, thank you, everyone. I hope to see everyone next week. Good night, all.
All right.
Right all.